Is it possible to make a cinematic film without the most expensive gear or a whole crew? How long does it take to go from packed to ready to roll? Everything that I used to film my Icelandic cinematic series fits in this bag, except for the tripod. And if you want to take your filmmaking to the next level, I'll show you exactly what worked for me in the field and what I would change on my next trip. So let me show you what's inside. But first, let me show you what I make. Every single piece of gear I trusted to capture Iceland's landscapes is right here. Camera, lens, filters, tripod, each had its role, and one of them saved me a lot of time. I'll tell you which one later. Before we break it down, here's the full setup I carried around Iceland. Not exactly lightweight, but manageable. The whole set came in at around 6.7 kilograms, with 3.6 of that being just the tripod, leaving with only 3.1 for the actual camera gear. Let's start with the heart of the setup, the camera. I used the Blackmagic Design Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, recording mostly in 24 FPS and sometimes 60 for slow motion shots. It has a micro four thirds sensor and an MFT mount, which means access to a huge range of compact travel-friendly lenses. This is a fully manual camera. Every exposure and every focus pull is on you. But the payoff is worth it. That natural cinematic image with no artificial sharpening or over-processed colors. To make it field ready, I added a SmallRig full cage. It gave me plenty of mounting points and made the camera more durable. On top, a SmallRig handle, great for stable run and gun shots, a solid grip and quick moves between locations. It even works as an extra stabilization point, and it comes off in seconds when I need to pack up fast. For the power, the Blackmagic battery grip, running on two NPF 570 batteries, almost tripling the runtime. With two sets, I could shoot for about 3 hours a day, more than enough for Iceland. Yes, it's bulkier, but that extra weight actually makes the camera more stable when using the top handle. The last touches, an SSD mount for quick and secure drive attachment and a peak-designed slide strap for security and comfort. It kept the camera safe over cliffs and waterfalls and let me carry it on my shoulder when I didn't want to bring the bag. And when the wind picked up, it was a huge plus that the strap could be detached in seconds, no more having it to catch the wind and shake the camera. I chose the BMPCC4K over typical mirrorless cameras because I wanted full control over the image, B-roll recording and that cinematic dynamic range straight out of the camera. And also I liked the challenge, mastering the fully manual camera and operating it in any condition. The one thing I missed the most? An external monitor. Iceland's bright sun often made the camera's screen hard to see, especially framing wide shots. If I could add just one upgrade for my next trip, that would be it. That's the core of my setup, but the camera is only as good as the glass in front of it. For Iceland, I needed one lens that could handle almost everything, from wide, sweeping landscapes to close-up details, without constantly swapping gear in freezing winds. And before we dive in, if you enjoyed this kind of content, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss another adventure. Alright, let's talk about the lens. I went with the Olympus 12-200mm f4 IS Pro. This lens is a workhorse, covering the equivalent of 24-200mm in full-frame terms. That means I could go from wide cinematic landscapes to tight, detailed wildlife shots without ever changing glass. Here's 12mm, and here is 100mm from the exact same spot. The built-in image stabilization works magic to keep shots smooth, even handheld to a certain degree. And for a zoom lens, it's impressively sharp across the entire range. Another thing I really appreciated was the manual focus clutch. It gave me precise, tactile control over focus, which was essential when working with a fully manual camera like mine. One of the biggest advantages was simply not having to carry multiple lenses. It saved me space, weight and time, all of which mattered in Iceland's unpredictable weather. It's not the fastest lens at f4, meaning it's not as bright as some prime lenses, but for Iceland that was never a problem. In May, the days were long and bright, and I was almost always using ND filters to cut down the light anyway. This was my all-in-one solution, and I trust it again on my next trip. Of course, if budget allowed, I would have loved to bring a dedicated telephoto lens, perfect for wildlife shots. But for this trip, 12-200mm did everything I needed, and did it well. Next up, the tripod. I went with the Sirui SH15, a more budget-friendly option, but still solid enough that I wouldn't have to replace it a month later. It has a fluid head for smooth pans and tilts, and it's stable and durable enough to handle Iceland's winds without worrying about the camera tipping over. The height was a real advantage too. It could easily get the camera over fences, crowds or obstacles when I needed a higher perspective. The built-in metal spikes also came in handy on soft, unstable ground, especially on those muddy sulfur fields where regular rubber feet would sink in. If it had been made from carbon fiber, it would have saved me a lot of frozen hands in cold weather. And one tip, attaching it to carrying strap makes a big difference, because after hours of hiking it can be exhausting to hold it in hand. I'd definitely choose it again. The only limitation I noticed was a shake at the very start or end of a pan, or occasionally a slight catch when tilting up or down. Both were minor and totally acceptable for the price and overall performance. Now let's talk about one of the smallest pieces of my kit. It weighs almost nothing, but makes a huge difference. I used the SmallRig mini matte box, paired with step-up rings so I could use larger filters than my lens diameter, making them compatible with any future lenses I add to my kit. The matte box helped me in two big ways. First, it cut down lens flare and glare, boosting contrast. And second, it was a lifesaver near waterfalls, slowing down how quickly water drops would cover the lens. That said, Iceland's winds didn't always play nice. Many times I had to take it off entirely because it caused camera shake, but since it detaches in seconds, it never slowed me down. Let's move on to filters, starting with ND, which is kind of obligatory. I used the Hoya HD MK2 IRND 8 3-stop and IRND 64 6-stop. I chose fixed ND filters instead of variable ones, to keep maximum image quality, no strange color shifts and no cross patterns in the sky. Think of ND filters as sunglasses for your lens. They let you shoot in bright conditions while keeping that cinematic motion blur. For Iceland, this 3-stop and 6-stop combo was perfect. With my f4 lens, it gave me the ideal shutter speed without having to close the aperture too much. Now the filter that I think made the biggest visual difference in Iceland, the CIR-PL. A polarizer filter is a must-have there. I used the Hoya CIR-PL HD MK2 and it completely changed the way water looked in my shots. It cuts glare and reflections, letting you see into the water and bringing out its depth and color. It also works wonders on waterfalls, wet rocks and coastal scenes, removing that harsh, wet shine and giving the image a cleaner, more professional look. In a place like Iceland, where moisture is everywhere, the CIR-PL is one of the easiest upgrades to make your footage look instantly more cinematic. Before we get to the bag and that real-time setup test that I promised you, here's the one thing that allowed me to record the entire trip and not run out of space. I used two Samsung T7 Shields SSDs, 2TB each. And it's a good thing I did, because I ended up with over 9 hours of footage from Iceland, shooting in B-RAW 521 that came out to just over 2TB. These drives can handle every recording mode and bitrate this camera can output, and they are officially recommended by Blackmagic for the BMPCC4K. One thing to note, once the drive gets past about 90% full, it starts to slow down a lot. Near the end of the trip, one of them took over 2 minutes to initialize before I could start recording. That's why it's worth having extra space. And if you want to see if it was worth it to capture that much footage, check out my Cinematic Iceland series. I'll link it here. So, with the storage covered, I still needed a solution to keep all of this safe and ready to shoot anywhere. This is the Tenba Cineluxe 21 backpack. It's not a hard case, but it's built around a strong metal frame and opens in a doctor's bag style. So I can drop the whole camera in, fully assembled with lens and matte box, and be ready to shoot in seconds. For this kind of trip, a solid bag is essential. It meant I never had to wrap the camera in the car or take it apart. I'd just pack it, close the top and go. And thanks to the backpack straps and removable waist belt, it's comfortable enough even for hikes. In Iceland, most spots are close to the car, but if I needed to walk further, this bag made it easy. It also just barely fits in most carry-on size limits for flights. The dividers are fully customizable, and even with the top handle attached, the camera fits for quick transport. For longer hikes, I'd remove the handle so it sits perfectly inside. Links for all the gear are in the description. Some of them are affiliate, and it helps the channel at no extra cost to you. Also, the video is not sponsored, so each piece of gear that you see is bought and tested by me. And the piece of gear that saved me the most time? It wasn't the camera, the tripod or the lens. It was this, the color checker passport video from Calibrite. It cut my color grading time down from hours to minutes, making matching shots so much easier. I'll show you exactly how it fits into my workflow in next week's video, my full Iceland editing process. Of course, there were a few other essentials like a cleaning cloth, a rocket blower and a charger to keep the batteries going. Small things, but without them some shots just wouldn't be possible. And now the part I've been looking forward to showing you, setting up everything in real time. We're going outside, POV style, and I have one goal: get from the car to camera ready and rolling as fast as I can. Let's see how quickly I can pull it off. Alright, so the timer starts now. We are ready. 1 minute and 24 seconds. Every piece of gear that you've seen here shaped the final film, and next time I'll show you how it all came together in the edit. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss my time-saving editing workflow in DaVinci Resolve, coming next week. But for now, check out this film. I think you'll enjoy it. And remember, let your films be shot by reality.